and you're watching NDTV 24/7.
Good evening and welcome to We the People. Time was when the pursuit of a suitable boy or a suitable girl was India's favorite national obsession. But now is the idea of marriage, or at least the idea of conventional marriage, under the scanner, maybe even under threat. At least will marriage have to take a hard look at itself as an institution and change some of the rules as society, particularly urban India, changes. This past week, the Supreme Court endorsed live-in relationships and premarital sex is something that belonged to the right to life. In fact, the Supreme Court in its observations invoked Radha and Krishna from Hindu mythology to question why actress Khushbu had to face an onslaught of legal cases, 22 of them, for daring to suggest that it was all right for young girls and women to indulge in premarital sex as long as they took the requisite precautions. Well, on the program today, we are debating whether live-in relationships will challenge the institution of marriage as we know it. Of course, along with our studio audience, you can also post your comments online. Our webpage is ndtv.com/wethepeople. If you prefer, you can also tweet your comments. We'll run your tweets to the length of this program. My Twitter handles @bdat. Let's get started now with Pinky Anand, who's been representing Khushbu in this case in the Supreme Court, where all of these quite path-breaking observations, in a sense, Pinky, were made. Now, firstly, it seems bizarre to me that for Khushbu saying what is a commonly sort of known fact, that look, if you have sex, whatever kind, just take the necessary precautions against HIV, against pregnancy, and so on. This sounds like a responsible statement, someone encouraging people to take precautions, not get into trouble. Instead, she's facing 22 cases. What do you make of the Supreme Court observations?
See, let's not really mix up the two things. What I was arguing for Khushbu in the Supreme Court was ultimately the fundamental right of freedom of speech and expression. One is the subject matter, I mean whether it is controversial or not controversial. Secondly is the simple factum that whether a person is entitled to give their opinion without harassment or provocation from a group of people who choose to file criminal complaints. And I think that was the sum and substance of the entire arguments. What came within that is some observations maybe. But really speaking, the question was, Khushbu responded to an interview by India Today, asking her certain issues, and she responded to them. As you said, one of them was that if you do indulge in sex, then you be careful of AIDS, you be careful of venereal diseases, take precautions. She didn't tell anybody to go and have sex. That's not her statement.
So am I sensing in your statements a kind of reservation about the observations of the Supreme Court?
No. There's no reservation or non-reservation. The matter is reserved for judgment. I don't want to get into that issue.
No, the observations that the court made.
I have no reservations whatsoever in any statement, because what the Supreme Court said is perfectly in order, that today live-in relationship is not considered illegal. And that is the law of the land. I mean, Supreme Court has said nothing which is not as a matter of record. So why should it create any controversy in that respect, in any manner?
All right, but there's clearly a difference between, of course, the law entering people's bedrooms, which it probably shouldn't under any circumstance, no matter what the orientation is, as long as it's consenting sex between adults. But legality aside, what about live-in relationships as a cultural value? How do they juxtapose themselves with the institution of marriage? Kalpana Lajmi, we know you, of course, as a renowned film director, but we also know you as somebody who has lived with Bhupin Hazarika, the much-respected Bhupin Hazarika, for I think decades now? Decades. And refusing to get married to him. Even though he's been wanting to get married, right?
He did, I didn't.
And that's a role reversal, because usually the conventional assumption is women always want to get married and men are the ones who want to fly the coop.
But the real reason was volatile, temperamental, crazy, mad. So every seventh day I thought, no, I won't get married, because if I would, we'd get divorced the next day. And that continued. And now for 38 years we've been living together and still not approved by my mother. So
even at this age, mummy doesn't approve.
No, mummy doesn't approve, though she's wonderful and we live together.
Yeah.
I lost my father last year, so we are all staying together. But one thing is definite. When I made the decision to live in, and especially with icon and God in Bengal and Assam, it was not easy for me. Whereas I think 38 years down the line, young people today can make that decision by themselves without worrying about the cultural values existing or coexisting around them. But I still don't think, Barkha, that live-in relationships are going to pose a threat to the institution of marriage as such in India, including the urban areas, because it's a niche.
You think the numbers are too minuscule?
Yeah, too minuscule.
But I just want to ask you, how old were you when you decided to live in? 17, I think?
Yes, I was 17. And also the age
So
gap
you weren't
was,
even adult
I was
in
not
that
even
technical
an adult.
sense?
Yes.
Yeah?
I could have gone to jail for that at that time.
And did you ever think, one last question, that, suppose you wanted to have kids, this would be a problem? And would the choice have been different if you wanted to have kids?
No, it's true. It would have been even more heinous a crime, probably, at that time. But there's a very close friend of mine, my age, Neena Gupta, who did it and lived her life without a lie and has brought up her daughter wonderfully as a single parent. And Masaba is an intelligent, productive adult. So it depends on the courage of the individual to go ahead and live like a sore thumb in that arena that they function in.
Right. Pooja Bedi, you're the daughter of unconventional parents. And so to that extent, you inherited, you don't have the usual problem of parents disapproving.
Well, my mother actually had a problem with her parents disapproving because she ran away from home and lived in with my dad. And her father kind of disowned her, and I don't think she ever spoke to her father till the day he died. And that was a huge, big deal for her emotionally as a woman, as a daughter, as somebody in Indian society who loves their parents. I had it much easier. Because my parents had lived that life and had lived in together. Eventually, they got married. I, of course, was born to them. It's never been an issue whether I choose to get married, whether I choose to live in. I've done both. I've been married. Post-marriage, I've also had a live-in relationship. And no, it's never ever posed a problem for me. I believe that it's better to live in with somebody and test it out, see the dynamics that work between couples. And if it's not going to work or go the distance, thank God I never married that person and committed for a lifetime.
What about children?
Well, I have children from my marriage, so as of now, that's not an issue for me. If I lived in with somebody, it would be because I love being with that person. I want to test the waters, want to see the dynamics between him and me, and if it were to go the distance, and then if he were to want children, I'm very open to marriage. I love the institution of marriage, but that doesn't mean I'm opposed to living in. I think it's a wonderful.
So you're saying both can kind of coexist in this sort of happy way?
Yeah, because my brother Adam, for example, lived in with his girlfriend Nisha for years, and now they're married today. So living can lead to marriage. It doesn't have to be an either or.
Okay, that's interesting. Now, Siddharth, in your film, which, Salaam, Namaste, which actually explored this phenomenon, the interesting thing in the film was that in the end they did get married.
Right.
As if that validation in the end is needed. And in the film, Preeti Zinta gets pregnant. Initially, Saif doesn't want to have the kid, doesn't want to get married, and all of that, but he does eventually.
Right.
So is the subtext that, look, in the end, that's where salvation is, especially if you want to have children?
No, it depends on, it's a personal prerogative actually. What happened with him in that case was he was commitment phobic. I think that can be to anything. For example, he ran away from home because his father kept telling him become an architect. So he was an escapist in a sort of way. And in the film actually, which I think does exist in reality, there are various reasons why you live in. It's just not because you want to try out a marriage or if a relationship works or goes ahead. It's also because of probably economic reasons. You want to share the rent. You hardly get time together because you all are working in the day. So let's just meet at night instead of meeting at a coffee place. We can live in together since we're both away from town.
It's a practical sort of
It's also a practical solution.
Not necessarily a romantic one.
Exactly. So you're not just trying out whether we're compatible. It's also an economic solution for a lot of people in our country who are living away from home and earning away from home, which is what in a way was the case in my film, and it is inspired from a lot of friends who did live in abroad at that point in time, not in India.
But now do you know a lot of people who live in India?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yasmin Contractor as a school principal. Is this your worst dream come true? Because I mean, no school principal I know knows how to handle the phenomenon in a sense of the fact that children are beginning to get sexually active perhaps earlier than all of our generations. What do you tell them? Do you make it something they should morally think about? Or do you say, as Khushbu said, that look, if you're going to do it, at least protect yourself?
See, I don't have an issue with people having live-in relationships. But it is not the right time right now. For our school children, it is important that they understand, they are able to understand the implications of a live-in relationship. Sometimes the scars are too much. I would not like young children to be vulnerable to all these things. I believe in the institution of marriage, and I feel at the end of the day, they should get married because there will be children involved, there will be a lot of issues. And as far as addressing the problems that the children are facing, I was very happy when CBSE introduced the adolescence education program, where they are giving a lot of guidance to the children how to handle relationships.
So the time for sex education in that sense has come.
It has come. And I would really request people like Kalpana, if they could create little movies for the children to see how to grow in that direction, rather than teach them with paper, pencil, and talk about sex and other issues like that.
But Poonam, it's interesting, and Pinky will endorse this. The Supreme Court actually talks about how in the age of internet, when there's a flood of actually sexual imagery all around us, sexual information, but there continues to be this reservation because to an extent the family, you know, and earlier it was the joint family, now it's the nuclear family, has always been upheld as this moral value, this thing that you aspire towards. You know, and there seems to be this paradox in our society because you still have people talking about how women should be virgins before they get married, and then you have this whole thing of the Supreme Court talking about what's the big deal.
Watch yourself. These are the same kind of statements which led to a lot of...
Oh, you mean I may get 24 cases against me? Well, Khushbu, wherever you are, I agree with you. But Poonam,
what is the question?
The question is, do we in an age of where the morning after pill has become common, it's sold off the shelf, where schools are struggling on how to deal with young people getting sexually aware, that's on the one side. On the other side, you have the social conservatism, where Kalpana Lalpuri's mother at this stage will tell her shadi kar lo. Does she still say it?
She said it last month.
What did you say just before I come to Poonam? No. All right.
Values are very difficult to change. Values which are conservative, maybe if I can put your mother in that bracket, values are not, those of us who work on changing values or behavior, we know it's very difficult to change. But let's also know that young people too have values, and they don't get changed because there is an after morning pill or contraception available. You know, when
they don't. I mean, I thought one of the big reasons to sort of think before you sleep with somebody is, God, if I get pregnant. And now you have the option of the pill there, and it changes everything.
No. Look, there have been...
Doesn't it? I've got this girl...
Okay, there has been...
Is your mother watching this show?
Yes.
There's been contraceptives for a long time.
Everyone's scared of their mothers,
There's been contraceptives for a long time in India. You know, HIV/AIDS fear that there were going to be a lot, because if you propagate contraceptives and condoms, a lot of people said there'll be greater sexual promiscuity and behavior and so on. But it didn't happen. In fact, India, it turned out that we have much lower rates of HIV/AIDS and much lower sexual activity. In fact, we just did a survey, we supported a survey where 50,000 young people across the country were surveyed. Do you know only 15% young males reported that had premarital sex, and only 4% girls reported that had premarital sexual relationships.
So this is
it's a fear,
invalid
it's an obsession, it's an invalid thing. And you know, when I think this particular judgment or contraception being available where women will have greater access, it's a gender issue. The minute women get more access, more freedoms, people get very nervous. And it's in a patriarchal society like ours.
What is worrying me, I mean, this whole discussion of live-in relationships, it seems as if we are advocating something which is very hunky-dory, a great utopia where we are going to live in for the rest of our lives and live a happy life. But I'm afraid, one, the experience doesn't really seem to show that for a lot of people. For some, yes. And secondly, while talking to Yasmin and what Yasmin was saying, for God's sakes, let's separate the adults from the children. I think it's high time that we decided that this individualism of saying, let's have it all, today is the time to have fun, let's stop it somewhere and say, no, this is not good for anybody who is not a major, at least that much. Though, I mean, in principle, let me tell you, my belief is that we as a society are functioning we are surviving, and we are being looked at as models by all the Western states which are falling apart because of our social fabric. Call it hypocrisy, call it immoral, call it moral, call it whichever terminology, but we have managed to stay above the deep waters, whereas America, Europe and other countries
So
are
you're
suffering.
saying don't make this an aspirational value?
Absolutely not, for God's sake. Absolutely not an aspirational.
Doesn't make it an aspirational.
She's not saying so either. She's saying she wanted, look, she said she wanted to do it for herself. That's another matter. But let's not idolize it and say it's a very good thing to do. Let's drop everything which is so-called moralistic or conservative and therefore resign ourselves to this happy existence. No marriage, no children, no liability, no duties.
I don't think it's about being aspirational. I think it's about a human experience. When you meet someone, to actually say, I want to wake up with you every single morning with the stamp of marriage or without as a live-in, it's a huge commitment.
There's no commitment. Living, the difference between live-in and marriage is this. In live-in, there is no commitment. In marriage, there is commitment. Let's separate the two.
I disagree.
I mean, whoever doesn't agree is another matter.
Okay, Pinky,
There is no official
all right. You set the cat among the pigeons. Let's go one by one, and I've got lots
That's
of
all right.
audience
I
hands.
don't mind.
Okay, wait, one second.
There's an exit clause in marriage also. You can have a divorce if it doesn't work.
All right, but you know, one of the tweets we had coming in today said it's much easier to leave a bad boyfriend than it is to leave a bad marriage. Pooja, go ahead.
And thank God for that. I mean, who wants to be stuck in a situation with somebody you don't get along with and then have to deal with family and pressures and legalities and long court procedures and, you know, you decided to meet this person and you love this person, you want to spend time with this person, you want to have a life with this person, you decide to live in with this person and it doesn't work for XYZ reasons. Thank God it's easier to leave the space.
But what happens, Pooja, when you are living in a relationship and you're not giving your 100% because you're thinking it's a temporary thing, and after 6 months you decide that person is not suitable, you move on to another relationship, and when you
Can I reverse the question to you?
I want to say one thing, that when things are not permanent, you make extra efforts to keep the person in your life. When you are in a marriage, you take your partner for granted because you know the person is there for the rest of your life.
Okay, 1 second. Why did I see this enthusiastic endorsement from a man?
What am I supposed to say?
You said correct, like you know this from your own life. No, go ahead. What are your thoughts on this?
Is he married first?
No, see.
Are you married?
Yes, I'm married.
Okay.
The trouble is that in marriage, yes, one of the partners is taken for granted always. And that really is a trouble. And it becomes very
Is your
difficult.
wife watching this show?
Language.
Who is it in your case?
Yeah, Poonam?
No, I'm saying who is it in your case, but
Who is it in your case? You want to answer that? I paid for asking that. Yeah.
you know, no, I just want to say that your assumption, Yasmin, where does it come? Where is the evidence anywhere in the world that live-in relationships, there isn't a commitment, you don't give your best?
No, I'm not saying it is not, you don't give
It's
a
a
commitment.
question. You asked that
I
question
only
and you
said
made the statement.
there may not be permanence there. Everybody
But
can't
you know,
be
you're
like
in
that.
Marriages, is there 100% commitment?
By and
Why are
large,
there then
you do try to make
extramarital
it work.
affairs? Why
Yes.
are
Yes.
there? Why is beating of 45% of women in India experience domestic violence in a marriage? So where is the commitment?
Okay, hang
there?
on, guys. I want a quick comment. I've got other people waiting to speak. Kalpana, from you. In a sense, your story contradicts this assumption that when you live in with somebody, you're not committed. I mean, Bhupenda is significantly older than you. At this point in your life, in a sense, you're looking after him virtually, I would imagine.
That's because I love him. And as Pooja says, well, I obviously wanted to be with him all my life, and we've been together for 38 years.
Yeah.
Despite the age gap, despite our cultural differences. Mind you, it's not easy because he comes actually from my mother's generation. And I've come from, well, much more than you guys today. But there was a big gap. And it was a huge, huge cultural gap because I come from Bombay City, and then I had to go and live in Bengal.
Yeah.
And right from your clothes. I mean, I couldn't wear trousers and tops, and I had to go wearing salwar kurtas, and saris never suited me. So it started right from rock bottom. But I want to say one thing. There is a big difference in the attitude and approach towards live-in relationships today with the generation of today, who I would say are between 21 and 31, than what was when, let's say, Nina or myself were at that point of time when we were 20, 21.
Yeah.
we also were, जो हम लोग कहते हैं ना संस्कार, we had all that inculcated in us. I'm not making a general statement.
But you're kind of saying that it was a deeper choice then, and right now there's a sort of fickleness entering the urban relationship, which Pinky says we need to be worried about.
Yes.
And I know Pooja's got something to say about that, but I've got other people here. I'm going to come to you in a second, Gaurav. Well, we've got Yamini and Bhavna ready sitting next to us. Now, products of an unusual marriage. Father being Raja Reddy, married to 2 sisters, all dancers, classical dancers, now so are the 2 sisters. But in a sense, you are born to 2 different mothers, and you have this, instead of having 2 parents, you have 3 parents.
Yeah.
Does this feel strange at all?
No, see, it happened before we were born. We were married. No, what I'm trying to say is that it wasn't like my Kaushalya mummy married him after I was born. It was, they were all 3 of them were living happily together before either of us were born. And when we were born, we were just raised in that environment. We never felt it was strange. We were loved by 2 mothers. We were getting great attention, and we used to be yelled by 2 mothers, and used to get scolded by 2 mothers. So that was all like in there. But
would it be weirder if they weren't sisters? Did that make it easier?
No, I don't think so.
No?
I mean, well, as long as all of them are happy, I mean, first of all, we were grown into it, so we only realized later. And when we did...
At what age were you sort of... At what age did you understand that when you went to school, for example, everybody had a mummy and a papa, and you had a papa and 2 mummies?
Yeah. You know,
like at school, and kids make comments, they say things. Were they ever like creepy things
they would. No, not many of our friends said creepy things. We were lucky that way. But yeah, they all asked often, you know, what is this sort of relationship? I said, it works for us. I mean, we are happy. I mean, all 5 of us are happy. We're living under one roof. And so why should it make a difference to you when we are happy? And so they, I don't know, they just kind of left it there, and they never really probed into it.
But as you've grown older, any questions, any doubts, any like, you know, thoughts about marriage? Because your assumptions of marriage might be very different from what most people have when they grow up in a nuclear family.
Well, I think they didn't dare to ask, first of all. But, no, I mean, I think in a way, everyone got used to it. And I think everyone's open to the idea that if you're happy with it, then there's no problem.
No, actually, the thing is that nowadays...
You're married, right?
I'm married, yes.
Yeah. One husband?
One husband.
Okay.
One husband. No, so I just feel that, you know, it requires a lot of maturity on part of the people who are in the relationship. It requires a lot of maturity. When I see my parents also, they've come to this agreement. There probably a lot of compromises were made at that time, but they agreed to do it together. And they're mature individuals. They understand each other. They know when not to step on each other's toes, and they have made themselves comfortable in that relationship. Now, the youngsters nowadays, I think everybody doesn't have the sort of maturity that you need to handle a live-in relationship. Because a live-in relationship requires maturity. You cannot play with someone else's emotions.
Did you live in with your husband before you married him?
I didn't.
Yeah, Poonam?
So does marriage require the same...
But she's saying that it kind of needs more in a sense.
See,
you think?
Yeah, I think a live-in relationship requires more maturity because you're not tied down.
I think it requires more courage.
Yeah, it requires more courage.
Siddharth, was your film drawn from some experience in your...
deviant from the norm requires more courage and more involvement and much more, what should I say, exactly.
Okay, I'll just come to you in a second, Siddharth. Gaurav, you are with Shadi.com, that great portal that underlines the obsession of Indians with marriage. But do you find even attitudes to marriage are kind of changing, that people are more laid back in terms of their approach to marriage? Or is it as obsessive as ever?
No, I think we're in the business of happily ever after. And that is...
But this show's called Happily Unmarried. No, go ahead. Yeah.
So no, I think that broadly, we don't see a shift in youth aspiring to get married.
Yeah.
We see a lot of people not getting married as a result, though, as a result of various things in their lives. Siddharth mentioned, you know, sort of economic reasons or reasons of convenience, or like Pooja mentioned, trying things out. In certain cases, because youth are finding their voice so much more, and if they don't have that tacit approval of their parents, then a live-in relationship is something that they would definitely consider. So that's something that's also driving them in that direction. But broadly, unless, you know, there are a few, you know, platforms that we have in Indian marriage. One is the success of Indian marriage itself. I think that success begets success. And until that fabric of marriage in India starts to weaken a little bit, and we start to showing, you know, fissures like in the West, I think people look up to their parents.
But that's what Pinky is saying. But Lalita, do you find that in surveys conducted by AC Nielsen and so on? Because one of the things I think actually causes serious fissures in marriage is actually this business of looking up to parents. Because the people in the end have different parents, and they don't always have the same ideas.
We conduct surveys for India Today. We've been conducting 6 surveys for them for the past 7-8 years.
I never believe those results, I have to tell you. I don't know who these people are that you find. But they all sound like they have the most glamorous lives. So, you know.
Let me give you some idea about how the survey was done. So
no, that's okay. No, I was making a joke. But what do you find largely?
Okay. I don't have any statistics on live-in relationship, but I do have some statistics on premarital sex.
Yeah. Why don't you share those with us?
Sure. About 30% of women have claimed that they have had premarital sex, and 74% men have claimed that they have premarital sex. Is there some statistic for Khushbu?
I think Khushbu is not going to speak that quickly in a hurry. But nonetheless,
we've been tracking for the last 10 years as well. And because the age of marriage has been slowly growing more and more, higher and higher, I think that's something that we're seeing as a result of...
But I have a comment here, Barkha.
Quickly, because
the figures, the figures that she's saying, you know, for example, the men claiming, or whatever numbers there are, generally men tend to portray this as a sign of macho image. This is not really, this may not well be reflective. This may not be reflective.
All right, what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break. There are lots of young people sitting here who have questions, comments, even though their parents are watching back home. But we'll ask the parents to give them this time out to talk honestly. We'll come back with one question, which has been raised from a legal point of view. What about the rights of a woman? The Manimat Committee, the National Commission for Women, have proposed that after a certain point, a woman who lives with a man should have the same rights as a wife. Is that possible, desirable? If we're ready to change the institution of marriage, don't women have to change also what they're asking for? We'll look at that after the break. Welcome back to We the People. We're looking at what happens to the institution of marriage in urban India as cultural values change, as their attitudes to sex and living in with somebody you love change as well. Before we return to the panel, lots of passionate young voices in the audience. Go ahead.
See, we come from the society where people used to get married at the age of 10 and 12, right? But today, even if a 24-year-old boy is planning to get married, their friends raise a eyebrow and say, what's the hurry? Right? So they are getting married at the age of 28, 29 and maybe 30.
So are you saying that you can't expect somebody to not have sex till they're 30?
See, most of the people... are doing it. Most of the people are doing it.
But it's honest and it's true. And Gaurav made that point about people getting married later and later. Did you want to add to that?
Yeah, definitely. I endorse to what Pooja and Siddharth said, that the people don't want to endorse directly that what they are doing. They are a bit shy.
So, but they're doing it anyway.
Yeah, they are doing it anyway.
I like to say, isn't it all about a girl's virginity and the fact that society won't accept the fact that women are coming out now? And I think that's what premarital sex is all about.
I think that's a really important point. Pinky, respond to that, because the point is that there's this infuriating double standard about women's virginity. I've never seen a man being tested for his virginity.
That's true. That much is true. That much is true. There's this hypocrisy about women's virginity and everything which is involved around it, so I can't dispute that.
All right, add to that.
Since we're talking about the legalization, I'd like to ask something to Ms. Poonam and Ms. Pooja. Now, we're talking about live-in relationships being so secure. Then why is the National Commission of Women pushing for rights for a deserted woman in a live-in relationship? Why are we looking at changing the definition of wife in Section 125 of CRPC to include a woman living in a live-in relationship? If the live-in relationship is so secure, then why do we need to...
Good question. Who wants to take that? Poonam, you want to take that? It's a superb question, because you can't at one point, you can't have it both. You can't sort of say that, listen, I'm this urban modern woman who wants to cohabit, let me be, stop judging me by conventional standards, but you know, when my man leaves me, pay me alimony. I mean, come on.
No, but listen, there are,
you know, I'm coming to you. You're saying why not, and I'm coming to you.
See, Barkha, it's about people's freedom to choose whether they go into a marriage or they go into a live-in relationship. And I think that the rules should apply to both relationships.
But does the girlfriend or the partner need the legal rights of a wife?
Well, the contract
because if you're
marriage
rejecting part of the tradition, why are you taking the bit that
No,
suits
but
you?
listen, traditionally in India we have contract marriages, and in contract marriages, the children of the woman who is part of the contract their children have the right to property.
Okay, but there is
the same way. And I think, why are you making such a huge difference? If there are laws and rules for there are rules and laws for living together, civilized society.
But there are many questions which liberals like us don't think through. You know, domestic violence, what happened, all of those things, marital rape, which actually is still not recognized, all of that. Pinky, I'm going to come to you, just want to take a few more questions. This is what we're going to look at in this segment. What happens to the legal rights that exist in marriage but may not exist in a live-in relationship?
My question was more to do with kids. As I see in a live-in relationship, what is different from a marriage is that you don't have that exit barrier which is so high, or that sense of permanency. But isn't that sense of permanency and security very essential for a young child who's growing up? Does that not in some way add to the...
You've got two kids here who grew up in a completely unconventional environment.
Well, all I can say is they've been extremely lucky, and it's very courageous.
See, the thing is that it's not about being married. You can be not married and provide the same sense of security to your kids. I mean, why do you have to marry to
But people say things at school, right?
Yes, people say things, and we live in a society which I think we cannot...
Okay, one second.
Where's the security in that?
One second, Pooja, go ahead. What did you say?
But then you end up getting divorced too, so then where's the security in that? And security comes from the kind of parent you are with your child. That's where the child
All right,
is.
Kalpana, are you suggesting in a sense that divorce is even more taboo than just living with somebody?
No, I won't compare the two situations, but I will say one thing, that divorce is taboo in India, even in what we call the upper middle class societies.
Yeah.
And very difficult for the woman after the divorce to rehabilitate herself into another relationship which is secure.
But Siddharth, in your film, it's the baby that changed the decision to get married.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's actually at what point, see, the value system that we discussed in India, the value system is so intact and so rooted. You think more of what your family will go through than what you will go through. At one point in time, for example, if she decided to go ahead with the baby out of wedlock. But what happens is that, how does the society perceive that? How does the society perceive the child? No matter how urban we say we are, whatever we are, at the end of the day, if you have a child who doesn't have a name to his father, you will have kids peering at him, you will have people questioning him, and it's not none of his, it's not his fault.
All right, I've got somebody next to me.
My mother and father are very bohemian, but at the same time they got married because my mother got pregnant with me, and that was a decision they consciously made for me as a child.
So therefore, do children change this paradigm legally, morally, culturally?
Sure,
but we'll come back to our panel. We've got Devalina and Shujoy sitting next to me on my left. You guys lived together for 7 years, but you eventually did get married after 7 years. So take us through that journey. First, the decision to not get married, then the decision to get married. Who wants to take that?
Why do I have to do this?
But go ahead. That's what Go ahead.
Well, yeah, we started living together a long time ago when it seemed to be the most practical thing to do. We were staying on the same college campus. It was easier to live together, and it was interesting actually because my parents, who we didn't really say it to, but they knew. I mean, it was one of these situations. Actually, got a lot of relief from the fact that he was around if I was sick or if there was things to be taken care of. And then we came back to India, and then we came back to India, and we lived together in a couple of places, and then. Well, at one point, basically, our parents told us, please do this. Please just do this.
Yeah.
So we said, okay.
So you did it for your parents?
I think we were fine with either. I think we had waited till the point where we were indifferent between whether it was legal or not. Yeah. So for us, really, at that point, it didn't make a difference. And it made some people happy, some people we cared for. We went along with it. I don't think we were living together to prove some point, ideologically or politically. Yeah. We were living together because we felt it was okay, it worked.
And then it made someone happier for you to get married, so you did. in a sense.
With many reservations, but it's been okay so far. Yeah.
What were the reservations?
Well, you know, you're always worried because when you're living together, in a sense, you're interacting as people, as individuals. You know, but the moment you get married, and this is the way marriage functions in our culture, is that all of these other factors get drawn in. That
they get imputed.
They get imputed also. And unfortunately, these don't remain external factors because then they actually enter the space of the relationship itself. So the relationship itself becomes fraught with many other factors.
So you're saying it can stultify the relationship?
It can do many nasty things to it.
Yeah, including stultify.
Including
Okay, I'm sort of raining on this marriage parade.
No, but
go ahead.
I
support the freedom for people to have live-in relationships. I'm not agreeing with this, that a marriage constrains you, or what is the word you use. What is the big difference? Tell me, what constraint? I'm a happily married person, and I have the same independence that many of you would have in a live-in relationship. It's important.
They're married too, by the way. They're married.
I know. It's important for people to respect each other. I think the focus here on legality.
Once again, Yasmin has a question.
I just wanted to know, is your happiness diluted now that you're married?
No.
So,
but
I think it reaffirms the fact that...
Yeah, let him just respond. Let him just respond.
Again, as I said, that we were not living together because we wanted to be cool. You know, it was not in our agenda to be. We were doing it because we felt at the time it seemed a good idea.
Yeah.
And as it happened, as it were to pan out, it is a good idea.
It is
for us.
Have the reservations gone?
Well, the reservations about having relationships are fraught with reservations. Human relationships
All relationships. No matter what label you put on them.
Can I just
yeah, Pinky, yeah.
Now we're talking about stultifying of relationships. I think, in fact, if a husband and wife or even live-in partners are left to themselves, they probably scratch their eyes out. I think you do need society as a buffer to interact with each other and to make a relationship to grow. I don't think it stultifies if you live separately. I think it can be a major irritant. You need various avenues of escape, including families.
This goes to the hub of the debate. Let me take that to Kalpana. That there are two ways philosophically of looking at life. One is that rules exist, because if rules didn't exist, there would be anarchy.
Yes.
The other is that individual thinking people don't like rules. They prefer anarchy because it's more honest. Is that the debate here, in a sense?
I think it is that debate in a sense, but I cannot generalize and make that statement. As I said, decisions about relationships vary from generation to generation according to the societal conditioning around them. So it's difficult for me to say why I made that decision. I probably think, looking back now, it was very, very tedious and very difficult for me to make that move. But today, I think, as these two young people said, they slid into that most comfortably, and they grew together.
But you've continued to say no to marriage for a reason.
Yes, I'll tell you why. Because Bhupenda comes from an extremely conservative background, and I felt my intellectual independence and my independence in shaping up my career was far more important than being a gimmi, as they say in Bangla. So I didn't want to think of, I must tell you, I was also in love with Farooq Sheikh before I met Bhupenda. And my mother wanted me to marry him because he was good looking. But the thought of making biryani and belowing naans in the kitchen decided that no.
But is that what Farooq expected you to do?
I don't think Farooq even knew I was in love with him. So
now he does.
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 It's never too late. You can have them both.
Oh God.
All right.
Well, I got him in my first film, Ek Pal, which was...
I'm just coming to you,
which was about having a child out of wedlock, though she was married, and the entire maturity of a husband and a wife learning how to accept and reconstruct the marriage because of that child. So
so that we come back to
joint
that.
Responsibility.
Sorry,
Yes,
it's more
it's
responsibility.
yeah, exactly.
All right, let's hear now from two people. We heard from two people who lived together for 7 years, in a sense got married
with their reservations, with their families happier, they're happy. Now we've got two people who've been together for 17 years, is that correct? 17 years, wow. And have not got married. They're here tonight from Mumbai, Bapu and Munish. Is this to be cool, as was said there? Why didn't you get married?
No, I mean, it was very bad. The way, and 17 years ago, when both of us were 17, still in school, I think we just, I happened to go to Jodhpur to pursue my education in law, and there were all sorts of reservations from my family at that point in time. But we just decided it was very ordinary, and I think there were...
It wasn't a big statement, which is the point that was being made by Shujoy as well.
Yeah, we were 16 and 17, 16 saal ka pyar and all that. All we wanted to do was be together.
There's something about the 17 age.
I know. Yeah.
17 years.
Yeah.
38 years.
Yeah. So we didn't really know whether a term like live-in and etc. existed or not. All we wanted to do was be together. Yeah. Thankfully, I had a house to myself, so we started living together.
Any pressure since then from families?
Enough number of pressures from family, and in fact, in a way, they've graduated now. They've stopped asking for us. They've stopped asking for us to get married. They've started asking for us to have kids now. So.
Okay, here's the point. Now, if you do decide to have a kid, would that change your decision?
I don't think so. See, till date, we managed to find out where there have been enough problems.
Yeah.
Practical problems have been there. I can't put a name as a nominee in anything. I can't put a name as a person, as a dependent in my Mediclaim policy. So yes, there have been... we've gone around that. I've started putting FDs in her name. She's started putting... She's bought a car for me. So we've gone around those little hurdles. I mean, it didn't matter to us whether Supreme Court was actually agreeing to it. It really doesn't matter. I mean, you can find a way around it.
Well said.
We've found our way for 17 years. We'll find our way.
And I think that's what's coming out, that contrary to what people think, it's not this disruptive, rebellious statement that people make. People just slip into whatever's natural to them. But Pinky, some people say that marriage was made up to actually give women property rights. That it actually, in a sense, it was a contract. I hate to be so non-romantic.
It's not a contract. For God's sake, whoever uses
but
is wrong.
But
it
hasn't given women. But it hasn't. That's the reason.
No, the point is not this.
Yes.
There are two things, Barkha, I want to just say here. Yes. You know, you're talking about marriage and live-in relationships. In India, marriage can be made if you are above 18. Nobody seems to understand that. And that is not because of live-in or marriage. No, but just a minute, Puna, please. Yeah. The point is that child marriage is illegal. Though it is not enough punishments, that's another matter. The reason you don't want people under age to get married is because you want them to be of a certain age, maturity, blah, 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 etc., to be able to engage in this social relationship, and marriage is not a contract. Hindu Marriage Act specifically recognizes...
What is it then?
Let me answer.
What is it?
It's a sacred relationship.
It's not a contract.
It's a sacred relationship.
I'm trying to understand.
It is a sacred relationship which ultimately is two people getting together, the families getting together, and living towards a societal obligation.
So is it any less sacred? Because both you and
No, let's not compare. I am only giving you a definition. Kalpana's case is a unique one. Let's not keep reading into everything. No. The point... But aside from the age factor, all I'm saying is that we have to be very careful here on the age of majority. Look, everywhere in the world we recognize a certain age as a responsible, mature age.
Okay. Now, one second. Who's a parent in this audience? We haven't heard from parents. How old is your child?
My son is 21. My daughter is 18.
Are you one of those parents who thinks my children don't have sex?
No.
No, they don't, or no, you don't think?
No, I don't think so. I know for sure that, especially for my daughter, because now she's 18, I've heard telephone conversations, and the moment I come into the room, it stops.
Is your daughter here today?
She's watching.
Okay.
And she knows that I know.
Okay.
So I know for sure that her age group and her friends are active sexually.
So how do you handle that as a parent? That's the key thing. How do you handle that as a parent?
As a parent, I've done my job. I've explained everything to her, because we have written a book, and that book was given to her to read. So she had all the answers before she could think, okay, let me try this.
Now that makes you an unusual parent. Do you want to add to that? Yeah.
Very responsible. I want to say what has helped us to handle this particular fact of life, that our children may be sexually active, that we both are doing adolescent workshops all over the school, all over India.
So you're not in denial in that way that parents want to slip into
we are no more into denial. Well accepted the fact, And we are rather, I mean, helping other parents to accept this particular fact.
Pooja, did your becoming a parent, in a sense, change your bohemian spirit? Because this is what happens from generation to generation, that, you know, while we all may have smoked our first cigarette at whatever age, you know, had our affairs, all of that, the moment we have children, we want them to live by other rules. We want them to live by the rules that our parents wanted us to live by.
No, my parents were way beyond that.
Yeah, your parents are an
I'm a
exception.
dilution of them. You know, I don't want them to live the way my parents lived.
Yeah.
That's very different. But yes, I think there's a certain amount of responsibility that comes in. You can't just get up and go. You can't just, you know, have a relationship with somebody and introduce that person into your children's lives. You have to be very responsible in the manner in which you introduce that person, the fact that that person will share their space, their reaction to that person. It's an entirely different ball.
All right, you had a question for Kalpana Lajmi.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask her whether it's a joke or it's a fact. But do you cook in the house now, or do you eat out all the time?
Good one.
For 30 years in relationship, does one cook and live in relationship?
Hey, but hang on. Why is it about the woman cooking, for God's sake? Yeah.
But I'll tell you very honestly.
Yeah. Once again, Kalpana, go ahead. Yeah.
Well, not as a joke, but very honestly, Bhupen was in the kitchen and I was not. He loves cooking, and he's a gourmet, and he's a brilliant chef, not just a cook.
Yeah.
No, it's not a question of trying not to fit into the stereotype. Just because I entered into a live-in relationship, it doesn't mean that I gave up all my responsibilities towards the rest of my people. I've always taken care of my parents emotionally, and when I could, financially. And I still emotionally look after my mother.
I think that's an important point. The assumption is, and Yasmin, I want you to think about this, that and Pinky, that the live-in relationship is somehow frivolous, it's less serious, and it's taking us towards the West, where marriages are collapsing. I'm going to come back to you. You had something to say.
Yeah, I am here in Delhi working as a counselor, a marital or pre-marital. Number of cases are coming of living and marital thing, and I found that people, as Siddharth said, number of couples are coming to me, and they are in this live-in relationship because of the convenience of economic reasons or sex or love. Either, but they are still want to be in the marriage.
So love, sex or dhoka, or love, sex or money. I don't know which. Yeah.
My response is to Pinky when he said that marriage is about property rights for the woman.
No, I said that, actually. I said, was marriage created to... Yeah.
Okay.
But what's your question? Go ahead.
Yeah, my question is basically that marriage is primarily about property rights for the child. And this is where I feel one aspect of the debate has been ignored, which is marriage reinforces caste and class inequalities because these are controlled over property. And I feel that if you want to take care of this aspect, if you want to improve social mobility, marriage has to go.
Ooh! The original rebel. How old are you?
20.
20. Okay. How many people, one survey, quick survey as we're ending. How many people, when they were between 18 to 20, did not believe in marriage? Did not believe in marriage. Did not believe in marriage. Okay. Let's hear. All right, did not.
There was this talk here about how this is a low-cost solution, low-cost maintenance relationship. And that is what every youngster, every young teen wants to do. The question here is not about a live-in relationship, it's more about relationships.
Yes.
Kalpana here, she made a decision, she spoke about her sanskars, was the time when she was mature enough. The Supreme Court says, for the majors.
Yeah.
Are we majors here in this country with a median age of 25? Are we ready for this?
I think that's an important point, and that's the point that Pinky is making. Are we pushing onto our younger people something that may confuse them, may bewilder them, may, you know, and in America there's crisis after crisis, for example, related to teen pregnancies. Is that a danger that we have to sound the alarm bells about? You wanted to say something.
Well, I personally wanted to say that marriage as a term we cannot dismiss that as antiquated. I completely agree with, of course, with few exceptions, and I really respect that. But then majority of us in this age bracket, I mean, me included, of course, I've not gone into a living relationship. But I personally feel that living relationships, I mean, people are not matured enough to cope up with it. A woman gets deserted, she's left with nowhere, she feels banished and estranged. And in marriage, it's an institution, it is, the sanctity of marriage cannot be diminished because living relationships have come up. Agreed, divorce rates come up, but they're relatively less. I mean, there are ways to handle it. It's something like conventional. You can't have a stark distinction.
Okay. So you brought it back
I think
to
that's
women.
the whole point.
Got it. Go ahead.
The point is that institutions that persevere need to be challenged. Because institutions that persevere, which aren't challenged, are then questioned as though whether they're right or wrong. I think live-in relationships coming into prominence will actually reaffirm the strength of marriage, because people will have an option. They don't fall into marriage because not everybody.
Okay, that's an interesting. I think that's a good point. That's a good point. All right, why don't you stand up so we can see you? Yeah.
I think the Supreme Court ruling now should be taken as a precursor to probably greater reform, which is going to take place in other aspects of personal law. We have a very old Marriage Act, and it's going to be extremely empowering to women. Eventually, this will be empowering in the sense that we still have quite a patriarchal society over here when it comes to property rights and things like that.
No, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I just find it interesting that we've heard two different variations. One, that this is a step forward for women, and perhaps it's personally liberating, but what happens to that whole issue of what a man owes a woman? I really have time for just one last question.
I just wanted to add to what Aditi just now said. It's like this, I feel that a live-in relationship is very much similar to a test drive.
A test drive?
Exactly. It's very much like a test drive. We are not sure.
You have to choose your metaphors carefully here, but go ahead. How mean? How mean? All right. It's similar to a test drive. Yeah. Pooja, yeah.
One thing I'd really like to say
is silence, Pooja.
Is that this Supreme Court decision, this ruling, this verdict that has been passed, most importantly, doesn't give teeth to fundamentalist groups that encroach and invade people's personal space. And I think that's illegal, etc., etc.
Yes. Are you a parent?
I am a parent. I'm married. I was happily married to start with. I'm still happy I'm married for the last 19 years.
Happily married or unmarried?
Happily married.
Married, okay.
Yes. I'm happy I'm married still.
Yeah.
But I just want to make a point. A rose is a rose is a rose. In any other name that you call it, it'll still smell as sweet. We have 7 years, 17 years, 37 years. They had a commitment. It's not like job rotation, you keep rotating people. The whole idea is in a relationship whether you are in a position to live with somebody. If a tiger ditches, whether he's married or he's unmarried, even people who live if in case they're going to ditch, I think that's awfully bad because that's a breach of trust.
Okay.
The whole thing is about a relationship, a trust between two souls, and I think that should be the binding factor.
All right. I think that's very well said, and that in a sense the labels don't matter. I'm really out of time. Okay, quickly.
I just want to say that as far as the legal aspect is concerned, the Supreme Court has not really said something new because the Domestic Violence Act of 2005 has already introduced the concept of shared household. The shared household means some two people living in.
Okay.
Live-in relationships are not only about maturity or responsibility. If a person wants to enter into a live-in relationship, it's about values that you instill, and that would go down to Yasmin
what everybody's saying. Okay, I've really got to wrap this up. You have something very important to say? Very important. Okay.
I just feel that we have to cut across the stereotypes. Why do we feel that a marriage is bad and living is comfortable? It could be just both, or it could be just like to not have that fear and accept somebody and I love him and I will do it or will not do it.
It could be neither, either or both. All right. Who's going to wrap this up for us? Pinky, what do we expect from the Supreme Court?
I cannot comment on that. That the Supreme Court will decide. But let me say what I do want to say. We have not addressed the question of children from the marriage. Yeah. In law, anywhere in India or anywhere abroad, in the international circuits of US, Europe, etc., there is no provision for children to have the permanency in a live-in relationship. Yeah. And that is the problem area which nobody seems to have addressed. The permanency they're looking for seems to deal only with two individuals at best. So whether they take it permanently or tenuously or experimentally or confirmedly, that's not a matter.
Still changes everything.
A child who wants a relationship which is a permanent one to the extent of knowing who his parents are, and they are going to be there till divorce does them apart, if at all that situation happens. And in this country, we still value marriage because divorce is difficult. You can't walk out of a marriage that easily as you can by signing a piece of paper as in your...
Kalpana, last thoughts. I've got to end.
But that's true, because I think until woman is given rights economically, emotionally and sexually, and to be an equal to the male, live-in, not live-in, divorce,
all
marriage
irrelevant.
Is all irrelevant.
Pooja, quickly, last thoughts.
I just like to say that living in is wonderful, marriage is also wonderful. It doesn't have to be an either or. The main part is that a Supreme Court ruling like this at least gives a validation to it and takes the guilt out of living in.
Siddharth?
It's cheaper, I think, to live in. You don't have to call 500 people for your wedding.
That's what somebody said, low maintenance. Yasmin.
I still believe in the institution of marriage, and I feel people should go ahead and get married.
Okay, Poonam? I believe in both, in the institution of marriage as well as if people make the choice. I respect the freedoms that people should have, and in a democratic society that should in any case happen. But I also want to say that it is about love and care and loyalty and honesty and integrity and sharing and friendship. And it can happen in both relationships, marriage and... Gaurav, and online dating is already as much of a phenomenon as Shadi.com. So does that tell us something?
It's not really nearly as big. We like the fact that people have choice. We like the fact that people can choose to live in or, go in for marriage. We'll encourage choice in any way. We haven't talked about it, but there's a lot of people that are choosing to stay single.
Yes.
And that was never an option, some time ago. So I think that's people going in with their eyes open. We like that very much.
I think maybe it's all about personal choice. Any last thoughts as we wrap this up? That's what it's about. Whether you stay single, whether you're passing it on to him?
Yes. I did the last one.
Come on.
I think both should be allowed by any society without any kind of judgment, huge judgment passed. And I feel whatever works at whatever time in your life, and I think there should be some dignity in that. And that's fundamental.
I think we can all agree on that, no matter what else we disagree on, that we don't actually want the law in anybody's bedroom. And that's in a sense, I think, the point that so many people have made, that you cannot treat somebody as a criminal for just believing in love, no matter how long that love lasts. It needs to be treated with some dignity. So here's to personal choice and freedom. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.